everyone. So today I wanted to talk about my recent blog post that I posted on last week. If you're on our email list, you would have received that already. If you haven't received that notice, make sure that you join our email list so you can get those alerts as well as more information and tips on cancer prevention and recovery. But let's go through what this research actually showed us this year. So this blog post was all around, does tamoxifen timing actually matter? So it doesn't matter if you take tamoxifen in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening in terms of how well it can work. Now, when I look at my patients and clients, and when we're trying to figure out sort of, things in terms of protocols to really focus on, what we normally look at is, are there ways that we can actually help that medication work better? So are there ways to boost how that medication works, including things like, are there supplements or other things that could potentially decrease its effectiveness? Are there also other ways that we can start to stack more strategies for prevention purposes? If you've been put on tamoxifen or aromatase inhibitors, it's because of that intent to help with that prevention strategy as well on that conventional side. But there's so much we could do in that lifestyle aspect as well. And also, are there other ways that we can start to decrease those side effects too? So one of the things that we looked at again, or we normally look at, is, are there ways to actually help boost the way that these medications work? And this new research article actually points to something that's really exciting in that it's super easy, first of all, costs nothing at all, but could potentially, again, help with the way that tamoxifen works. So what they found in the study was that taking tamoxifen in the evening time, so that's between 6 to 11:59 p.m., could potentially be associated with improved disease-free survival or time period without recurrence for those with high-risk hormone-positive, HER2-negative breast cancers, rather than taking it in the afternoon or in the morning. So just timing, changing the timing to an evening time, could actually be helpful in boosting the way that tamoxifen works. Now, with aromatase inhibitors, they actually didn't see the same association. They didn't see anything with regards to timing changing the way that it could work. But here, this is exciting because if we can do something really small to modify the way that it's able to actually help in terms of that recurrence prevention, this is golden. So the other thing that I talked about in this blog was the fact that there was actually a research done many years before. It was done on mice, but it showed that potentially those pathways that are related to tamoxifen resistance. So over time, sometimes the cancer cells just don't respond to certain medications. That's what resistance is talking about. So it may not respond to tamoxifen as well, but that there were certain pathways around tamoxifen resistance and preventing tamoxifen from working optimally, that potentially melatonin, which is a sleep hormone that we produce mostly at nighttime, can help to impact, right? So it can actually help with reducing that potential for resistance to tamoxifen and help tamoxifen even work better. So in this particular study, what they found was that these mice that either had pitch black lighting or were given melatonin as supplementation were seen to actually have better response to tamoxifen than mice who had some dim lighting exposure during nighttime. So the dim light exposure was actually seen as something equivalent to if you had a door and you had light seeping from underneath that door. That's how little amount of light it actually took for melatonin amounts to be reduced, and then for that potentially to be impacting how well tamoxifen works. So what they came up with in terms of that particular study was that darkness was actually really, really important, specifically pitch black. Even the dim lighting could actually reduce levels of melatonin that our bodies naturally want to produce. But also that supplementation in dim lighting, so if you had no other way to sort of keep that room pitch black, that supplementation with melatonin could actually still be impactful in terms of how well tamoxifen could work and reducing and preventing that resistance to tamoxifen. So that's really important, because what we're talking about here is that there is a hormone that our body naturally makes that could actually be impactful and amplify the way that tamoxifen works. And this has been seen in a lot of different studies in terms of melatonin having multiple different actions for anti-cancer, antioxidant, potentially decreasing estrogen as well levels, and also helping with triple negative type breast cancers and having that potential for anti-cancer or prevention strategies around that as well. So there are many different studies around melatonin and for multiple different types of cancers, not just breast cancer. So bottom line for this was tamoxifen taken at evening time could potentially be, and I say potential because we probably need more studies, but if we are able to make this modification, and obviously please speak to your doctor before you start anything. No supplements should be taken without their recommendation as well, or without speaking to them about it, obviously too. But if we were to take tamoxifen at evening time, that it could actually be more beneficial at that point as well. If we want to produce a maximum amount of melatonin because we think that that may have an impact on tamoxifen, and you know what, melatonin has an impact on our circadian rhythm or our day and night internal clock that we have anyway. So it's actually beneficial for that reason to be able to get that sleep that we need and feel rested in the morning, all of those types of things. To be able to do that, we need to actually give our brains that signaling, which is pitch black darkness, that it's actually nighttime and it needs to produce more melatonin. Now, if we're not able to produce a lot of melatonin because we are either shift workers, or maybe there's, in terms of that lighting, we're still getting that dim light into the room. Although I find the sleep masks actually are really good in terms of that, because it's something that you can control. It creates a completely pitch black environment as well. But if there's other reasons why we may not be producing as much melatonin, maybe also as we age, we know that our bodies tend to produce less melatonin over time, then these are the instances where melatonin supplementation could potentially be helpful. Again, speaking to a healthcare practitioner like your ND or MD about certain supplementations would be really key in this to make sure that it doesn't interact with anything else. But those are some really simple ways that we could start maybe amplifying not only how well tamoxifen works, but maybe anti-cancer or cancer prevention strategies as well. One of the questions that I got asked also, that was a really, really great question, was if I take melatonin supplementation, does it actually decrease the amount that my body naturally will make? Looking at the data, and there's tons of research on this right now too. I mean, there's always more room for more research. A lot of the research is actually showing that taking oral supplementations of melatonin won't necessarily change the way that your body's able to make melatonin on its own. What actually creates whether or not, your body will itself create more melatonin or not is that light signaling to the brain. So is it dark enough that your body notices or recognizes that it's nighttime and it needs to produce that melatonin? Or is there even that exposure to dim light that then tells the brain, you know what, it's actually not nighttime. We don't need to produce that much melatonin at this point. So based on the research, again, it really doesn't show or seem to show at least that melatonin supplementation does anything to our body's ability to actually make that. Oftentimes I have patients too who have been on it for a little bit of time, can pause it. Obviously lifestyle strategies are always still important, so that darkness at nighttime is actually going to be really, really key and important. And one of the things that one of the authors actually said in this particular study with the mice study was that, that 8 hours of pitch black darkness, whether or not we were sleeping, could actually be still beneficial in terms of the impact of melatonin on our health, antioxidant wise, anti-cancer wise, and that we should sort of be aiming for that as well. So there are many, many different ways that we could start looking at really helping to improve our prevention strategies. Obviously, diet and lifestyle are huge in this too. But what I love about this research is that tamoxifen is something that many women have to take for a number of years. And when you're taking it for a number of years, one of the considerations is there anything I can do to help it make it work better? And this seems to be a really easy way to be able to do that again, to take it at that evening time, 6 to 11:59 p.m. is what this research sort of spoke out about. And again, that one of the factors that could be amplifying the effects of tamoxifen could be that melatonin as well. We don't see that with aromatase inhibitors at this time, but what we do know is that still boosting up or enabling for the body to produce sort of the maximum melatonin that it can with that pitch black darkness at nighttime could actually be beneficial across the board for many different types of cancers in terms of prevention, and also the way that we're able to sleep and stay asleep, and that circadian rhythm clock that's so important for not just sleep and wake times, but also for how the body functions, because it does function through an internal clock. So I hope that's helpful to you. If you want to be sort of on the know when I post up these videos, please subscribe below. And again, join our email list just in case when I've got any posts that I can also share with you. I'll talk to you soon.